And good morning, Hoosier Nation, and welcome to a mixed edition of Hoosier Morning After. Maybe with a little dash of bad, but we'll look mostly on the good in this one. This is Hoosier Morning After Penn and Ohio State's respectively. In these two games, Penn State won. IU obviously loses at home in a heartbreaker, 85-71, and then turns around with a good effort at the end of the second half on the road to defeat Ohio State 76-73. IU right now sitting at 14-9 on the season, back at it even 6-6 in the Big Ten. I believe that's good for tied for fifth place in the Big Ten currently. Let's quickly rip off the Band-Aid. Let's talk a bit about the Penn State game, I should say. A game you don't want to see happen in Assembly Hall, an effort you don't want to see happen in Assembly Hall. Just a game that so many fingers can be pointed at so many different directions. And I think the antithesis of that and the discourse you saw on Twitter from that was just a lack of awareness all over. Coach kind of having the comments in the post game, not saying that the press didn't really bother IU that much. Whereas as fans, you're watching, looking, the press certainly did bother IU's offense in that. And then just overall, night and day between these two games where IU kind of shows their belly and can't get up from the punch. And then IU turns around in the Ohio State game, as we get into, and gets up from that punch. So in an effort to move on quickly, Martha, give me your kind of overall thoughts on that Penn State game, and then we'll flush that one down the toilet.
Yeah, I think the sooner we flush that one, the better. That was one where I think it really exposed the worst that Indiana has to offer, and it really exposed a lot of the stubbornness. I think, we've talked a lot about Coach and his, being adamant on playing two bigs on the floor at once with McKenzie and Baca on the floor at once, and that was certainly the wrong recipe. It's the wrong recipe against certain teams, and Penn State is one of those teams. Now, it's not a very good Penn State basketball team. There's really no excuse for losing to that team in Assembly Hall under any circumstance. But it was a team that, we've seen Indiana just really struggle to come out with any sort of edge, maintain that edge through an entire game. And that's what felt like happened. Penn State got hot. They made it a game. They got the lead. They punched us, and we had no answer for it. And I thought for as good as Gabe Cupps has been defensively, he really struggled in this game. Keeping his guy, I think it was Baldwin in front of him, just was making shots in his face. And it was just one of those things where it all snowballed and we had no answer. And we needed to find some answers on the perimeter. And they just don't exist on this roster. So it was one of those things where that was a team you had to put away in the first half. Indiana came out and started the game pretty well. And they didn't put them away. They let them back in the game. They let them get confidence. And when that happens against this Indiana team, for whatever reason, we've got no answer, and we had no answer, and it was just an inexcusable loss. And it's one, while we're gonna flush it, it's one you can't forget, because it exposes a lot of what's wrong and what needs to be fixed with this program moving forward. So it was a really, really frustrating loss. I think it was probably the worst loss in the Woodson era, and it's one that as he continues to figure out what this program is going to be moving forward, specifically into the offseason, it's one you've got to find a way to be able to point back and look at that and say, that's not going to happen again, and here's how we're going to fix this roster. So, yeah, bummer of a performance, but glad to flush it at this point.
Yeah, and a game where, looking at the rest of the season, it was one of those where, okay, well, we've got the win for this one. This is our easiest game left on the season. We're at home. We're against a team, yes, where we've struggled in the past. They've kind of had our number to a degree, but just one that you needed to get. And when desperation and a fan base as passionate as this one is teetering on the line, and I've even had one of my friends text me after that game, said, "I'm done. And there are a lot of fans that felt that way after that game. That we can't stand to see that kind of effort and that kind of play in an Indiana uniform. And then IU goes on the road against Ohio State, and a little bit nerves going into this one, because from the tip, it was just a very flat game on both ends of the court. Ohio State not really doing much, Indiana not really doing much. Just a real struggle from both teams to begin this game. And Ohio State kind of got the edge in the first half from some bad defense from IU. Battle kind of was able to have his way with McKenzie to a degree and just not locked in and not playing as well together on the offensive side, trying to play a lot of single player ball, a lot of hero ball, allowed Ohio State to take a 13-point lead into the half. And then the second half didn't look much better. Ohio State getting up to as much as an 18-point lead. And then Galloway turned it on. Galloway got frustrated. Galloway got angry. And there was a single point in the second half where I think it was near the 8-minute mark or so where Galloway got to the rim, got a beautiful shot, was getting downhill at this point to a good degree, and then turned around in the inbound and drew that charge on their player when they were trying to inbound the ball, which was a foul and everything. And that kind of really, I think, turned the tide for IU on that point. And in that moment on, it was more of IU's game, and more specifically, Indiana Elite's game under Galloway and Leal kind of took over, and the defense was locked in a lot more, stopping those drives from their guards, and then just capped off from that huge nailed three from Leal. Loved the play drawn up. I hope that was truly the play that they drew up going into that time or coming out of that timeout. A great curl swing drive by Galloway to then suck in Leal's player and then find him on the outside to make that three. And what a clutch moment for him as well. Another great Leal game, and we'll get into him a little bit more. To finish intros, I'm your host, Chad Schwartzkopf. Here with me always is Martha, the mop lady. Now, Martha, give me your thoughts on a little bit lighter side of a game, this Ohio State game. Got you muted. Oh, there you go.
Yeah. Yep. Sorry about that. So, I think last night, at least to my surprise, I saw some fortitude out of this team that I didn't realize existed. There was every reason for this team to kind of fold. There were multiple times early in the second half they were down 18, and at halftime I was scratching my head. I'm like, man, this is we've got Purdue on Saturday. This is not a good situation. Because it didn't feel like there was any chance IU was going to win last night. We know what type of obstacle West Lafayette's going to be with as good as Purdue's this year, and the team had every reason to fold. But you had a couple guys, and for me, it almost started with Malik Renew's tech. There's a point in the second half where we had gotten down by close to 18. I think it might have been 15 at the point where he got the tech. But he was still playing inspired, and he's an emotional kid, right? And he's got to be able to channel that a little bit. But he's still showing effort, right? He thought his teammate got fouled, and he expressed some emotion, and I think at one point he was called for a foul at the other end or something, and it clearly wasn't a foul. I don't remember. It really seemed to bring everybody together. Woody called a timeout. You saw Calvert working the refs, and he brought everybody back together and settled down, and then they came out and went on that run. And it was really spurred, I think, by Trey and Malik. And for a while, they looked like John Stockton and Karl Malone working the pick and roll. And, Trey's knocking down threes, and we're slowly chipping away. And Trey was just not taking a loss for an answer last night. Mm-hmm. He was just he put the team on his shoulders. And, yeah, I know Anthony came in and hit some huge shots, and that was big, right? I think Anthony's been key here the last couple wins, but Trey showed me a lot last night, and so did Malik, and obviously Anthony was the icing on the cake, but they refused to let this team lose, and yeah, Ohio State's struggling. They're not very good. They're probably going to lose their coach, and all that stuff, right? But still, it's a road game in the Big Ten, and that's not an easy thing to do, especially
it's currently a quad one win.
Exactly. And let's think about what we talked about with Penn State. This team gets punched in the face and they have no answer. They kind of flipped that script a little bit last night, right? They got punched a couple times and were down, and they found a way, fought back, and it was just a different feeling than I've had, watching them all year. You could just tell with the confidence that Trey was playing with the energy he was playing with the bounce that Malik had, Khalil Ware had some big shots, and they just seemed to have a confidence that they were going to keep fighting and fighting and fighting, and they put themselves, in an opportunistic area to win, and they came through. Anthony hit a huge shot, and that's some confidence this team needs, and when there haven't been many of those moments. So it was encouraging to see.
Yeah, and I think it's safe to say that it could be just a comfort level. I jokingly mentioned the Indiana elite and that connection that those two guys have, but we've seen so many times this season where we've had an overwhelmed Galloway. And Galloway looks like he's trying to do too much. And when he's kind of been the only guard for IU when X was out earlier in the season, you could just see the weight of the responsibility on his shoulders. And there may be something too when he's got Leo in there. He's got someone that he's familiar with, someone he's played with since he was 14, 15 years old. And just a comfort level of knowing that he's got his back and he's going to be someone in there that can do those hustle plays, do the right thing and everything. And that could be a contributing factor as well into that spurt. And you mentioned a little bit there about the coaching and stuff. And I think the coaching staff was a little more locked in as well in this game. In the second half, I'll point to as well. Not many subs that happened in the second half, but we saw a lot of subbing of defense for offense going on in the second half as well. Battle is obviously Ohio State's best player and a major threat from the 3-point line. And in the first half, he kind of had his way to a degree, and Mackenzie struggled to defend him and lost him a few times. And towards the end, you saw the coaching staff almost doing an offense for defense type subbing, bringing in Cups for Mackenzie at points, which allowed the defensive assignments to slide Battle onto Leo, who has been a dog defensively and been a lot better than what we've seen earlier in the season, where he's gotten driven on and guys have gotten around him. Now he moves his feet and is very aggressive and everything, and really liked that kind of change as well. And then I'd also point to some of the time in the second half when Galloway started to get going, the coaching staff started to call plays for him. You saw some of that 2-man game with Galloway and Reneau happening. A lot of those plays were called for them rather than just kind of putting it in the hands of the guys. You actually saw some coaching happening. Heaven forbid that happen. But I think the coaching staff did step up to a degree in this game. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would agree. I think, I think they made, and you saw it with the engagement that the staff had towards the end of the game. I mean, they were fired up, but they were pushing the right buttons last night. And that hasn't happened, like you said, a whole lot this season. I think, when we look, and we're starting to see what this is going to look like down the stretch too. You got a couple sophomores that aren't really even getting off the bench at this point. And as unfortunate as that is, it's creating opportunities for other guys. And we've talked about the progress that Mackenzie Mbako has been making, but he does still have those moments where he struggles defensively. And the staff recognized that, right? I think Jamison Battle was doing a tremendous job getting to the free throw line. In fact, I think he went 10 for 10 from the free throw line and got most of his points there. I think more than half of his points came from the line. So, they were trying to take advantage of that defensive matchup. So to see the staff recognize that, get cups put on him, and I think they were good. And I don't, I'm that the way that play worked, where Anthony got his shot at the end of the game, whoever drew that up deserves some credit, because he was wide open and that was a great look to get the win. So they were certainly, pressing a lot of the right buttons last night. So you've got to give the staff credit. They've taken a lot of heat, and deservedly so. And I think they should still continue to take a little bit of heat, but they pressed some. I think they had a good second half last night. They kept this team engaged. They kept them in it. They settled them down when things were getting a little chippy. When Malik got his tech, really brought them together and settled them down a little bit. And you saw him stick with Ware too. I think he picked up his third or fourth foul, and they rode him for a little while. And they don't usually do that, right? I mean, it's usually an auto bench. So Yeah, I think they pressed a lot of the right buttons and they kept this team engaged and found a way to get them that win. So that was good.
Yeah, and by no way take my praise of them to say that Woody's seat has cooled off at all. It's still pretty warm. And he still has to answer for some things moving forward. But I think as we get into talking about players, we'd be remiss if we don't talk about Anthony Leal first. And the Bison in the chat said Leal is the glue holding the players on this team and the fan base together right now. And I would agree with that wholeheartedly. He's kind of been that leader, that talker when he gets out there, and as well that excitement maker for Hoosier Nation as well. Hoosier Nation loves nothing better than a hometown kid coming out, giving the effort, and rallying up for the team, making baskets, making hustle plays, and that's what he's doing for this team. And I can't believe I'm actually going to put this on tape. And Jared from Assembly Call, if you're listening to this, don't clip this for if I'm ever on Assembly Call. But I'm going to give Ryan credit. He was the first one at least to say it, and I know we're all thinking it now, and it's been shared around. But the coaching staff needs to reward Leal in this as a senior and as a Hoosier and give him the start on Saturday. He deserves to start. Again, as Ryan said, you don't have to play him for tons of minutes, but allow him for his name to be called up there. Allow him to start that game, play a couple minutes, and then take him out if you need to. But reward him, reward his efforts, reward his dedication for these 4 years that he's been at IU and what he's done. And yet again, on Twitter, if you look, he is reposting highlights and things like that. And it's never in the comments anything that he's quoted and said something. I think there was a highlight reel that was posted, and he said it's all about the name on the top of the jersey. Still giving credit to IU and everything, and just the passion that he has for IU. I mean, like I'm saying, that video is on the Big Ten Network, I think, men's basketball account, and you can watch that. And it's a highlight reel that they were able to put together. And again, he just had 6 points in this game. So you normally think a 2-minute highlight reel that you would have of a guy is someone that scored high points for this team, but it's just continued effort play, just making those great rebounds, fighting for the ball. There was a great moment in the second half that was a great example of that during IU's comeback, where he fought for the rebound on the defensive side, passes the ball to Malik, who quickly gives it back to him. Then Leal brings the ball down the court, immediately drives towards the basket, sucks in Trey Galloway's man away from him to honor Leal going to the hoop, passes it out to Galloway, who then drains that three and continues that great momentum that IU had going into that. And that's the kind of high IQ, great plays. He had another play, I think earlier on, or I forgot which point in the game, where he did something similar. He's driving, being a threat, driving to the basket, and then kicked it to Ware, who then was open because his player had to suck in and on him in the drive. That was kind of a common theme, not only with what Leal was doing, but with what Galloway was doing, and what allowed Leal to have that impressive shot that he had at the end of the game. Because we were getting downhill, we were drawing men away, and then we were rotating the ball and getting the great assist shots. So again, Leal ends with 6 points, 1 for 1 from the field. That's his three that he hit, 6 great rebounds and 2 assists in this game. That was those 2 assists that I mentioned there. Your kind of thoughts on Leal and let's get him starting on this game.
Yeah, there's kind of a, in a season when we've, been begging for anybody to show, some sort of edge or emotion or come in and play with some spark. There's a part of it that's a little bit frustrating that it's taken this long to get him a look, right? I mean, you can clearly tell that he comes in and plays with that edge, that emotion, that togetherness. He looks like a leader on the floor, right? He's bringing guys together, and it's frustrating because he brings a lot of those qualities that we've been begging for all season. And he's not going to be a guy that's going to go out and score 20 points a lot, right? But he is going to be a guy that I think Indiana can consistently count on to go out and play hard. And this season, that that's been asking a lot. They've had to search for somebody like that, and I think it took a little too long for them to turn to Anthony Leal, and it's so there's a frustrating aspect of it for me. But yeah, he's a guy that just from his play here down the stretch when Indiana's needed some answers and he's provided them, he's earned that right to go out and whether it's starting or increased minutes, whatever it is, right? But he should be on the court a lot more than he's been, and at this point in the season where we're not sure if we're going to get X back, and Gabe's playing a lot of minutes, and Gabe is a little bit limited offensively, and Anthony can hit those open shots. I think you start to give Anthony some of those minutes. He's a senior, he's earned them. So yeah, I'm all for it. But it's been nice to see him finally get his chance. And not only that, but he had his career high, against Iowa, and then to come back and hit the game winner. It's just nice to see. He's a guy that works hard. It's nice to see that pay off a little bit for him here down the stretch. So certainly hope we see an increased role for Anthony, and I think we will here moving forward.
Talking about the other Indiana elite player on this team in this game, Galloway. Again, we've already kind of spoken on him a little bit, but this is the type of game that you want to see from him on a consistent basis, or a more often basis, I should at least say. One of his higher point totals of the season that we've seen from him: 25 points, 9 for 15 from the field, 3 for 4 from 3, which was great to see. Perfect from the line, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, just 2 turnovers, 0 fouls was very interesting to see. Whereas all the rest of the starters finished with 4 fouls. But it was that second half, 19 points in the second half, 7 for 10 from the field. Just aggressive. And he played his game. He didn't try to force any mid-range shots. It just played a great 2-man game with Malik at many times, just getting downhill like he is able to, using the screens properly. And then again, on the defensive side, to finish as aggressive as he was on defense and as good as he was on defense with 0 fouls is pretty amazing in a game like this. And again, I will contribute some of this to a calming factor and a comfort level that he has with Leal out there, knowing that he doesn't have to worry about one of the other guards, either losing their man or what are they going to do. So just fantastic game from him and fight from him. And what a great response from a Penn State game where he struggled a little bit, and you even saw Coach riding him. I think if you saw Jared's post from Assembly Call, he talked about how he noticed a moment where Coach was really on him for taking a shot and everything. And that's disappointing to see and hear, but just loved his effort overall and his fight. And this is the kind of thing you want to see from him. And especially going into Saturday's game, this is a carryover that you really want to see, a she-he type of fight and performance up in West Lafayette from Trey Galloway. Your thoughts on him right now?
Yeah, I think he put the team on his back last night. And when there were no real answers, it was, we were getting to about the halfway point of the second half, and it looked like it was going to be another ugly loss coming down the stretch. And I don't think it was any necessary buttons that the staff pushed. I think Trey just decided that he was going to put the team on his back, and 38 minutes, 3 of 4 from the 3-point line. I think he made at least 2 of those 3 down the stretch, and they were huge shots, and just a guy that refused to let Indiana lose, right? I think his court awareness, right? Because you could see him directing traffic, pointing. He had the pick and roll working with Malik and even Khalil Ware a couple times, but he just knew where to attack Ohio State. It was a senior leader playing like a senior leader. And, I fully believe that he's the one who carried us to victory last night. And it was a heck of an effort by him. A guy that I think has taken a lot of heat for the kind of the step back that he's taken offensively this season. He's been asked to do a lot. We've talked a ton about it, just, trying to be a leader and trying to be that 2 guard for Indiana, and just his struggles shooting the basketball and inconsistencies this season. But it was finally a game where he was able to kind of break through a little bit there. And I just, it was awesome to see, because, you could see the effort that he was playing with. You could see, the passion he was playing with. So to see that all kind of work out in the end and him kind of be rewarded, and Anthony hit that shot. He found Anthony in the corner, trust his teammate, knocked it down. It was really good stuff to see, because these guys work hard, and especially the ones we've talked about here. They put in their time, they put in their effort. So it's good to see it kind of get rewarded with the win. I thought they certainly deserved it last night.
And the other player on IU's roster whose back hurts from carrying the team in the second half, Malik Reneau, finished with 26 points, 8 for 15 from the field, 0 for 2 from 3. Taking those threes, again, I'm going to hark on it every time. I like him taking those threes. He can take them every time for me. Got to the line a lot. Again, this was a very foul-called heavy game, I think, with 40-plus fouls called, pretty evenly distributed, I think 20-ish between the two teams, but got to the line 15 times, finished making 10 of them, 9 defensive rebounds, 5 offensive rebounds, which was huge in this game, 14 total, 4 fouls with that 1 T. And again, I'm fine with him getting that T. I am someone that when a game is like it is, when it's fought and it's going rough for your team, especially in the way that refs are calling these games, I like that passion. I like that fight. That shows that we're fighting and everything. So get that T, wear it proud there, Malik. Keep fighting, big fella, in this game. 3 turnovers from him, 1 block as well in 38 minutes. So pretty hefty load for him, but just like his aggression. And again, it harks back to Galloway. Loved the 2-man game that they played in this, just making himself available and everything. My only critique, I would say, with him, and it continues to be, is that now that we're seeing McKenzie kind of coming along and Leal possibly being that, and Galloway starting to hit some shots, I want to see him looking to kick it out. I think a lot of times he gets too much tunnel vision trying to go to the basket when he gets it on the block. But that'd be nitpicking if it would. In other words, a very heavy, fantastic game by Malik. Your thoughts on Malik's game?
38 minutes. I think Malik gets. We talk a lot about just like the lack of perimeter guys that Indiana has, and the lack of development between those two sophomores that CJ and Caleb, and I think Malik's jump that he's made from his freshman to sophomore season gets lost a little bit in this challenging season. But he's a guy that, and you and I have on this show have talked a lot about it, right? We sat here last year where he had such a hot start to the season, but then he couldn't stay on the court during the Big Ten season, get in foul trouble, and seemed a little bit out of shape. And the jump that he's taken this season has just been, it's been massive, right? It's been huge. He's a guy we can't have off the court. 38 minutes, like I mentioned, and there was the one play. The only complaint, and obviously he's a guy that plays with emotion. You love to see that. I didn't mind the tech at all either, especially in that situation. I think it brought the team together a little bit. But there was a play down the stretch with a couple minutes left. I might even have been under a minute, under 2 minutes, where he had that wide open look for 3, and he decided to drive it in and put a tough little floater up instead, and he missed it. And I think Ohio State went back down and got fouled. So I think we had a chance to take the lead at that point, and everybody was like, the reaction was, yeah, you should have shot that 3, right? But yeah, I mean, he's just a guy that you look at his field goal percentage and what he was able to do last night, and even making 10 of 15 free throws. That's a nice line for him too from the line. So he did a great job of getting their big guys in foul trouble, and they had no answer for him. They just didn't. The pick and roll was working with Trey. He was able to get to the basket when he wanted, and it was just another tremendous game by Malik, and love the emotion that he plays with, and it's been awesome to see the step he's taken. So yeah, great game by Malik.
Where kind of abbreviated in his minutes. I feel like he played a lot less than when I look at his minutes analysis, 26 minutes that he got, but finished the game 6 points, 3 for 10 from the field, took 1 3 and missed that. Didn't get to the line to shoot anything. One rebound, 1 assist, 1 turnover. A tough game for him to get going. Obviously, a matchup against a guy very similar to him underneath for Ohio State. So that struggled and got into a little bit of foul trouble, which led to him sitting for a good amount. But was great to see the coaching staff at least give him the run when he was in foul trouble at one point in that first half. And then had that awkward where he was on that fast break, kind of concerning, maybe hyperextended something, just kind of stepped weirdly when he was getting ready to take off. And it's a shame because that would have been probably a very impressive dunk. And if you actually look at Tony Adragna, Coach Adragna's Twitter, he found took a screenshot of where picked up the ball, picked up his dribble to take those steps, and he's just past the logo. So it just shows his crazy strides this man can have, and at least was concerning at first to see him coming up limping in that play, but the way the team was joking with him and the way he was staying lighthearted and he kind of kept moving and everything, doesn't look like it's anything in particular, maybe just a slight hyperextension at one point. He should be fine and everything. But just kind of overall a little bit of a struggle for him in this game. Your thoughts on Ware's game?
It looked like something, as an adult later in life, something that I would do, go up for a layup and pull something. Now I can't take off the half court line like
it's kind of like the Tom Segura move, if any of you know that reference.
Yeah, just awkwardness all over. But you look at his line, and I think the foul trouble certainly contributed to the lack of minutes. And there was a play he had down the box where I think even Robbie Hummel mentioned that it looked like he got fouled, and then he missed that breakaway layup. I mean, there's 4 points I think he could have had, so easily could have been a double figure night for Khalil. But I think the foul trouble had him playing a little bit passive. Obviously, probably had him see a little bit more bench time than he's used to, and it was a tough matchup. Ohio State does have some length, and the guy he was going up against was similar to him in length. So. And at the end of the day, Trey and Malik had it working. So they were, we kind of rode the hot hands down the stretch. So but it was an okay game by Khalil. I think defensively, he certainly provided some solid minutes down the stretch and was able to help us kind of claw our way back into that game and get the win. So all in all, a good effort by him. And hopefully that leg is okay for Saturday against Purdue.
Well, and I will say another kudos, and I'm sorry, folks in the chat that don't agree with this, or Hoosier Nation that don't agree with this, but maybe another kudos to the coaching staff, and to a degree where they could see that he was struggling and took him out for a few more minutes than we probably would have seen earlier in the season, and allowed IU to play a little bit smaller. And it has been successful for IU to be a little bit smaller in the lineup, and we've been harking for that and wanting that. And at least the coaching staff finally seeing that. And I think that a lot of that is credit given towards Leal and what he can apply for this. Final kind of soapbox on this. And like I mentioned before, as we kind of get into numbers, maybe this leads us that way. But I mentioned over 40 fouls in this game, and it was just a slog by the refs, calling fouls like crazy. But yet still, in the midst of that, I felt like they missed about every single one of Ohio State's screens that were illegal. You're supposed to be, and there was a big impression going into this season in college basketball to make sure that the person that is setting those screens is set and not moving in any way. And we've kind of gone away from that. And these are those things that aggravate me in the Big Ten, because again, this is something, and I'm not just being a Hoosier fan. I'm not just being someone against Purdue, but that hurts Purdue as well. Edey sets illegal screens almost every time as well with wide feet and isn't set as well. And we're going to see that on Saturday. Be prepared. And I'm just aggravated with it because this is why, other than Michigan State, the Big Ten has suffered going into March, because we are setting up these players to play games in a way that is going to be called very differently. Once we get ACC, SEC, different refs in there that call games very differently. If you watch any of those games in these other conferences, you see it being called so different. And it's just going to hurt these Big Ten teams, and something has to be done. And all credit to, who was it, Northwestern's coach recently that got that big tech right at the end of the game, giving it to the refs and got kicked out and everything. That was fantastic. Great to see that. But it just something that needs to be better in this sport. And we've come to know a lot of names specifically that we see when it is announced who is reffing these games, that we go, oh no, here we go. And of course, they stay true to fact. Xavier Johnson may have a reputation. These refs also have a reputation, and we know what's going to happen. We know what the kind of things they're going to call and how they're going to be hot-headed or what they're going to do. And Big Ten, you got to be better. We have to be better. We have to hold it to a higher standard. If we're going to be the basketball league that we are, if we're going to continue to dominate and do things in the postseason, it's got to be better for the Big Ten. Anything you want to add to that? Any jump on that soapbox with me, or otherwise you can move on and talk about some numbers.
I think you're spot on. Yeah, I think obviously, I think the Big Ten's lack of success past the conference season kind of speaks for itself, right? And it's we could talk at length about it. It could be a show of its own, right? And until the Big Ten decides to do something about it, I think we'll probably see similar results. It's no shock that it's been since 99 or 2000 since the Big Ten's had its last national champion in basketball. So it's just a style of play thing. It's the way games are officiated. It's all the above. And until some of that changes, it's other programs around the country recruit against it, and it just does the Big Ten a pretty significant disservice. So I'm with you, but I feel like it's. We're just at this point, it's falling on deaf ears. We're just screaming in the wind at this point. So until something changes, I don't see, a whole lot of difference. So I'm with you though, bud. Yeah.
Moving on to some brighter shores, brighter things. One of the amazing stats to look at in this game, obviously, a stat you can look at throughout the game and at the end to kind of really see how the offense is clicking for IU, is the points per possession. Now, if you look overall on the points per possession, IU finished with 1.152 in this game. But when you extrapolate it down to the two halves, that's where you see really the stark difference. IU just over 0.8 points per possession in the first half, and then to a fantastic, and I'm not sure how exactly it stacks up to the rest of the season, but in the second half, specifically towards the end, is why this stat is packed up. IU was 1.567 points per possession. And I think even as well, and of the possessions that IU had in that second half, especially on that stretch where IU had about 23 or so possessions, IU finished on 21 of those possessions. So a great look as far as that goes for IU. And then just overall shooting in that second half for IU, 55% from the field, 66% from three, and 78 from the free throw line. So just offensively clicking in such a great way for IU. And another one to look at stat wise, Ohio State is known for their offensive rebounds and taking care of that whole situation. And IU beats them with 12 offensive rebounds of their own to Ohio State's 7. Rebounds overall, IU +6 against Ohio State in this. So again, a lot of the effort from across the board for IU in that stance. IU takes 13 threes. Great to see that number going up, only making 5 of them. A little bit of a bummer for 38%. But again, so much better than they've been elsewhere. Getting to the line considerably. Again, back to the foul calling being interesting in this game. Taking 31 free throws, making 21 of them overall. What are some numbers that stick out to you?
I can't remember what the the percentage or what Indiana was down the stretch, but they're when that lead hit its peak and what we were able to overcome. But I think that margin right there, just being able to fight from being down 18, 15 points in the amount of time that we did. Free throw wise, I think kind of a pretty standard performance from us. I'll take 21 of 31. or yeah, 21 of 31. I thought Trey going 4 for 4, and I think Malik going 10 for 15. I think that's pretty big for him. Malik can sometimes struggle from the free throw line. So assist to turnover ratio is kind of up where we see it. Of course, you like to see the assist number go up a little bit, but when we're as handicapped at the guard position as we are, I think you take that. So yeah, I think the big stat for me is just, we think about how we were all feeling at halftime, being down. I think we were down 12 points, 13 points at halftime, something like that. Maybe even a little bit more than that. I can't remember.
13.
13 points. And I had zero confidence that, we were going to be able to overcome that deficit. I didn't see it, right? I mean, every time this team's been punched, they have no punch back. So, and they've kind of proved that thought right for at least half the second half. I mean, the lead extended 18 a couple times, and it was looking grim because I'm sitting here thinking, how are we even going to finish this season? Apathy was kind of at an all-time low after the Penn State loss, and I'm not saying this corrects everything. It certainly doesn't. A win at Ohio State isn't one that I think corrects everything, but for us to overcome, statistically where we were at and the percentage and the chance that we had to get that win, and for us to kind of fight through those numbers a little bit, for me, statistically, that jumps out. And I think it speaks to a lot of things, but I think the main thing is it speaks to some things that exist in this team that we didn't really think, or hadn't even really proved to give us any reason to believe it existed. Right. So it was good to see that. And just, you leave the game a little bit proud that this team was able to show some fight that I think many of us didn't realize existed.
Yeah, it was at the 7 minutes, 42 second mark where IU was down by 12 points, and IU then went on a run of 23-8 to finally win the game. That's a staggering run. That's an impressive run, and a little bit of complaining to Peacock. I can't stand the coverage of that. I had to kind of watch it on and off as I was carting my daughters around. My wife's out of town, on my phone, and it's not really good at jumping in where you've left off watching a game and everything. And so a little bit of the end got spoiled for me. I saw IU up that 2 towards the end of the game. And where I was in watching my game was IU was still down that 10, 11, 12 points. So knew the future, but was shocked and amazed to think that IU was going to overcome what that deficit was. And I guess I will say it made it a little bit more enjoyable knowing that IU was going to pull it off. But it was amazing to sit back and watch and think about how IU was going to be able to do that and everything. And the how was Anthony Galloway. Or Anthony Galloway. I will say, I'll combine the both of them. Maybe that was a Freudian slip. Was Trey Galloway and Anthony Leal just kind of taking this team and not being satisfied with this team losing and everything. Give me your final thoughts on this game as we move on to the next.
Yeah, it's one of those deals where, I mean, we think about getting the win against Iowa and kind of feeling good about going into Penn State, and we know what happened against Penn State, and we know how we felt after Penn State, and then with last night, it was nice to get a win. And it's a point in the season where there's the inconsistencies. It's difficult to get too high and too low. I think there certainly needs to be some frustration that exists that we're even in this situation right here in year 3, and we're on the we're way on the wrong side of the bubble at this point. I mean, there's work to be done, right? And there's opportunity to get that work done. But, we're at a point in the season now where we just have to find some things some building blocks, some things to put some hope around and figure out kind of what is, as frustrated as we are with Mike Woodson and the staff and kind of where the team's at. I think he's a guy that is going to and deserves to get another year. But he's got work to do, right? So as we look at this thing down the stretch, it's like what can be the building blocks of this program? What are some things that because obviously there's going to be some change. There's just going to be. There was going to be change either way, right? But in this era of college basketball, the roster is going to look a lot different. But what are those building blocks that this program can say, okay, enough's enough. We've got to put a team on the court that can get us into March and meet the expectations that this program is set for itself. And that's kind of where I'm at with the season, right? I think there's going to be some more highs. There's going to be some more lows, but you just hope some of those highs start to stick out a little bit more. And this team, you don't have to beg to pull the energy out of this team, right? That they're finding something there. Even going into West Lafayette with as handicapped as I think this team is, that's a big ask, right? But what you just want to see is this team just not fold, not go in there and just, bend over and take one. You just want to go in there and see them fight. And then you've got some home games, and get some wins that maybe we weren't expected to get. So you just hope that what we were able to overcome last night kind of carries over to how we play the rest of the season. Let's play with some fight. Let's play with some energy. Let's figure out what's working and just not quit until the final buzzer. And I think you'll have a fan base that's, we'll stay behind the program and continue to hope that we can get this thing right in the offseason a little bit.
Yes, it's tough to go in to West Lafayette on Saturday and a Purdue team that's cooking on all cylinders and arguably one of the best they've ever had. But this is where you want Indiana's headspace. I think this game put the right players in the right place mentally where they should be. Malik is fighting. Malik is not happy with things and is cooking. Trey Galloway as well is staying aggressive, being a strong player and a leader that we need him out there. And then having those contributing factors around them with Leo being there open and confident in hitting those shots when his number is called, but doing those things that we need him to do on the defensive end. He's going to be great matching up against the guards of Purdue and getting those rebounds. If he continues to be aggressive like that, just a fantastic, be that calming factor for your teammate, Trey Galloway as well in there. If some of those things happen, I'll be happy with the effort and the situation going into this game. Obviously, it's still going to be a struggle. It's going to be hard because they're at home. That crowd's going to be going, and they've got to be ready. And I like the headspace that they're in, at least going into this game. I like the way they have responded to the bad output at home to come on the road and get that win like that. Now, I will caution Leo a little bit. I think that obviously he had the Leo game previously, and then the Penn State game, he forced little things. He brought that back a little bit in this Ohio State game and played more away the way he should. So I'm excited for it. I'll be excited to see what kind of happens and what kind of effort that comes with. I want to see Woodson get teed up and maybe even get kicked out of this game. I want to see a fight from the coaching staff on the bench. I want to see more plays called like they were for Galloway to get downhill and open things up for other guys. So very interesting. Definitely ignited my excitement a lot more. Definitely makes me want to turn it on with a lot more excitement as we go into. Had we had another game where we continued to fold like we were in this game, obviously you're losing the fan base. But this kind of gives a little bit more of excitement and light leading into this game. So thank you for being with us. That's going to do it on this edition of Hoosier Morning After. Special thanks to those of you. I see you being very active in the YouTube chat today, Scott, the Bison, and of course, Jennifer. As always, great to see you guys in there. Great discussions and everything. Thank you. Continue to be there with us. I appreciate you guys. Special thanks, obviously, to Martha being with me as always. And as Martha always says, go to HoosierConnect.org, contribute those tickets if you have them going forward into this game. Let's get those Hoosiers in those seats who haven't been before. But that's going to do it for this edition of Hoosier Morning After. Don't forget to like and subscribe and follow me on Twitter at General Chadwick. There you can find out more information about the show when we're going to go live. Follow Martha at the Mop Lady. We'll be back again the morning after the next show. Until then, go out there, have yourself a wonderful day. And let's go Hoosiers.